Gittin Daf Yomi Gittin, precision بعینן תנאי כפול. We have the section here that deals with the need for a tnai kaful. If you make a condition, the condition has to be made in a double way. We'll discuss exactly how that's done. That means you've got to make the condition. If the following will happen, then I will do X. If the following doesn't happen, then I will not do X. And we'll discuss why. But to understand this whole piece of Gemara, it's important to understand that the mouth is an incredibly powerful instrument. We don't think of it that way. But the mouth is one of the most powerful instruments that the Ribbono Shel Olam has given us. And he's given us the mouth to have impact not only on other people when we communicate with people, but on ourselves. Our mouth impacts ourselves, and not only to impact ourselves and other people, but the mouth has cosmic impact. We see that in tefillah. We can change reality with our mouths. When we make a bracha, and that's why the wording and the formulation of a bracha and of tefillah and of any situation where the halacha requires one to use one's mouth to affect something significant beyond one's own personal life, that has to be done very precisely. As with any powerful instrument, you've got to do it the right way. You've got to do it very precisely. And that's why kol ha'meshaneh mimatbea shetavu chachamim, that you're not allowed to change the way the chachamim formulated a bracha or a tefillah. You can't make your own and start making changes. One can say one's own tefillot, but if you're using the formula of the chachamim, of the Anshe Knesset HaGdolah, in order to say a tefillah or bracha, that can't be changed. It's called a matbea shetavu chachamim. It's like taking a coin that the government has issued as currency, and you redesign it, and you say, if this is $100 bill, mine must be worth at least $100 because I've made it even better than the government's one. It doesn't matter if it's better or if it's worse. If it doesn't conform to the requirements and specifications that it was given, it doesn't have the power of currency. And so it is with things that we say. When the halacha constructs a saying, that saying has to be said for it to have its cosmic impact. It has to be said in a way that is aligned, that is according to the specifications of Chazal. And that's why when we learn it, just recently in the parasha, we learned the Tnai of Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, which is the source of Hilchot Tnaim, the source of the laws of conditional contracting. And conditional contracting is not a simple thing. We've had it before in Masechta Nedorim. Vayomer Moshe Elohim. After this whole discussion of the Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, and they want to stay there on the Golan, on the other side of the Yarden, and that's better farming for their animals, and they don't need to go to the other side of the into Eretz Yisrael itself. And then Moshe summarizes the deal, and he says, Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven will go over the Yarden with you, and they'll help you to conquer the land. And if you're successful, when you're successful, you will give them the Golan Heights and that area for their farming, because they've got cattle there, and until this day, the best cattle farming is in Eretz Yisrael, is up in the Golan. And if they don't do that, if they don't help you and support you in your battle with the Canaanim, then they'll have to share in Eretz Canaan. They don't get the Ever Yardeh. So Moshe formulates the Tnai in this double way. If they support you and help you, they'll get the farming on the other side of the Yardeh. If they don't support you, they won't get the farming on the other side of the Yardeh. And Tosfos says in Ksubis that we learn from there that the Shum Tnai eno mevatel et ha'maaseh, that really a condition shouldn't be able to undo an action. Now, why not? If I say I'm going to do something that's conditional, I'm selling you my house, but it's conditional to my getting a loan before the sale. What's wrong with that? I'm making it very clear. It's a sale, but it's conditional. But if you understand the cosmic power of a statement, once you've made the statement, you can't undo it. You can't say, I didn't mean it. So once you've made the statement, how can you modify it with a t'nai? How can you modify a condition? If we're just talking about legal issues, then in law, it's fine, you modify it. But in Torah, since a statement is so cosmically powerful, you've said, I will sell you my house. Bang, it's done. No on conditions. Too late to make on conditions. You've already set the sale. So we learn from Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven that there are a few techniques that you've got to do in order for a t'nai to work. There are a few techniques. One is the t'nai has to come first. You don't say, I will sell you my house on condition. You say, if I get the loan, right, Jack, if I get the loan, then I will sell you my house. So the condition is put up front, and the other is the tnai kaful. And if I don't get a loan, then the house will not be sold to you. You've got to put the two of them in. And we have that din of Rabbi Meir is brought in our Gemara and Daf Ayin Hey Amud Aleph and discussed on Ayin Hey Amud Beis as well. This links to important halachot when it comes to lulav and esrog, when it comes to arba minim. So you see, Tisha B'Av is over, so we straight away get talking about sukkahs. No, it's not the next thing on the calendar, but it's coming. You said, Dr. Howard, we need some inspiration after Tisha B'Av, so we get straight into sukkahs. We start getting happy already. Isn't the Daf Yomi amazingly sensitive to our needs each day? In Sukkah, the din is we see in Daf Memalef Amud Beis, there's the story of Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Loza ben Azariah, Rabbi Akiva, Shiur Bain Bisfina. The four of them were on a ship, and there was only one lulav. And Rabbi Gamliel had the lulav. And it cost a fortune of money. So Rabbi Gamliel took the lulav and made his bracha. Then he gave it to Rabbi Yeshua as a gift. Then Rabbi Yeshua used it and he gave it to Rabbi Loza ben Azariah. Then Rabbi Loza ben Azariah used it and gave it to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva used it and then gave it back to Rabbi Gamliel. Lama li lemeimar hechziru? Why do they all have to say that he returned it back again to Rabbi Gamliel? Biltai gavurcha kamashmalan matanal menat lachzir shma matana. If you give a gift on condition that after you've used it, you return it to me, that is a valid gift. During the time you've got it, it's yours. So that's how this particular tnai works, this particular condition. I'm giving you my lulav and esrog. It's yours because we have a din, ulekachtem lachem. The lulav and esrog has to be yours when you use it. Can't use somebody else's. But there's only one lulav and esrog. So I'll give you mine. Well, if I've given you mine, then what am I going to use afterwards? What am I going to use tomorrow? I'm giving you mine. And the condition is you give it back to me. Meaning, if you do not give it back to me for whatever reason, you will not have been yotze, because my gift wasn't valid. My gift was conditional. So you will only fulfill your mitzvah if you ultimately give it back to me. That's the mechanism we use when we lend a lulav and esrog to somebody else on Sukkot. Now comes the interesting question. The Baal HaItur has a chidush, which the Rosh brings in Sukkah. The Baal HaItur, very important, early Rishon, 12th century. He was a contemporary of Rabbeinu Tam. So this is the beginning of the whole Tosfos school. And he came from Marseille. It's always interesting to know the cities that people come from, because when you go to these cities and you visit these cities, it's important to be aware. You walk through the streets of Marseille, you think, this is where the Baal HaItur lived. So notice that each of these cities, there's a history there, a history that affects us. And one wants to know that. It's an important part of one's appreciation of the world and the different cultures and societies that we have. So the Baal HaItur is a very important halachik work, early halachik work. And he says, on Sukkot, you don't actually have to say it out loud. Because everybody knows you're doing it on condition to get it back. Everybody knows when on first day Sukkot, if I give you my lulav and esrog, I say, you don't have one here, use mine. Everybody knows what I'm doing is, I'm giving it to you as a gift on condition you give it back to me. I don't have to spell it out. The context tells you what the meaning of the condition is. That's what the Baal HaItur says. You don't have to say it out. You don't have to use the formula. The Tur then, in Siman Taf Reish Nun Ches, goes into the question as to if you do, so now what does the Baal HaItur tell us? You don't have to make a condition, because the context gives you the condition. But let's say you did make the condition, but you made it wrong. You didn't make it tnai kaful. So if I just say to you, here, use my lulav and esrog, that's okay. I don't have to say anything else. Everybody knows what it means. If I say to you, here's my lulav and esrog, I'm giving it to you as a matana, al manat lahachzir, it's on condition you give it back to me. And I don't say, and if you don't give it back to me, this gift is not valid. I don't add that. Have I messed it up now, or is it still good? Says the Tur, Yesh omrim she'ein tzarich lachziro lo ela im ken kafal tnao, that it only works if there's a double tnai. You've got to make a double tnai. But says the Tur himself, aval lefi ma shekatav da'afilu bistam tzarich lachziro lo lachzir lo kol shchein im itna velo kafal. Says the Tur, but that doesn't really make sense, because if we've said you don't need a tnai at all, and here you did give a tnai, it just wasn't a perfect tnai, so ignore the tnai. It's all valid even without the tnai. The tnai is not doing anything. The tnai is not adding anything. So what do you need the tnai for? The Beis Yosef brings the source of these views. The one is the Hagos Maimonis, who writes in the name of the Smag. Powerful people. The Hagos Maimonis, as you know, we've talked often. The notes on the Rambam and Talmud of the Maharam Rutenberg, a contemporary of the Rosh. That's the Tur's father, who writes in the name of the Smag, the first important Sefer Mitzvahs, Halacha Sefer, written at the time of the Goenim, and he says there, he says, Tzarich Shiyama, you do have to say it out in full, says the Smag, just that the halacha doesn't go into full details. The Gemara, the story of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, doesn't tell the whole story of exactly what wording they use. The Gemara assumes you understand that that's how it has to be, but you absolutely have to mention the double Tanai. Vikshor Haramach, and the Ramach asked also Rishon from the same period, Da'ad Rabim, Lo Yeh B'Tnai Kol Zeh, He says, surely without it, if without a Tanai it works because of context, how much more so it should work if you made the Tanai, you just didn't make it quite right. So I just want to focus in our few minutes on that one view. How does it work? I understand the Balaitu saying, context tells you that what's going on here. Context tells you this is a gift, conditional upon you giving it back. You don't have to spell it out. But then what the Tur says seems to be right, to suggest, as the Agos Maimonis in the name of the Smag says, that if you do spell it out, but it's incorrectly spelled out, that messes up the whole thing, the gift. That's difficult to understand. Surely it should be, as the Ramach says, surely it must be good, even if you messed up with the Tanai a little bit. It's the Rashbo who explains why that doesn't work. And the Rashbo says an amazing thing on our Gemara. V'yesh lomar, he says, Ditfei adif gilui hadat levad mitnai she'eno kihilchato. Contextual interpretation is better than verbal affirmation that is incorrect and inaccurate. If you're leaving it to context, that's okay, we'll figure it out. But if you're choosing to use the words of Chazal, you'd better get it right. Because if you get it wrong, you're actually undoing what you said before. It's not adding anything. And the idea here is an amazing idea of the Rashbo. Not all the Rishonim agree with him, as we see clearly, but the Rashbo's view is amazing. Because what the Rashbo is saying is that if you made a Tanai, but you didn't do it meticulously, you're saying that you don't really care about the Tanai. You were quite careful in the original statement, I'm giving this lulav and esrog to you. Now, on condition you give it back to me, and I don't go through the whole thing. That means my on condition is not really intentional. I haven't put all that effort into it. Because if you're going to say something that is formulated by Chazal, do your homework and say it properly and say it correctly. If you're saying it lackadaisically, if you're saying it in a haphazard sort of a way, that shows it's not that all that important to you. That shows that you're not that committed to it. Expertise and commitment shows itself in the detail. You've got lots of people who know a little bit about a lot, but they're experts who know a lot about a little, and they're geniuses who know a lot about a lot. But knowing a lot means knowing the details. When you talk to somebody about their business, or you talk to somebody about their economy, nowadays everybody has an opinion about everything, but they don't know the details. Talk about the legal reform. What legal reform? What exactly are you talking about? Most people don't know the details. If you don't know the details, it's not important enough to you. If it's important enough to you, you'll do some research. If you haven't done your research, says the Rashbo, it's a sign that this isn't important enough to you. And that's a lesson for our life that we've got to know. And we've got to educate our children that way. And we've got to ourselves operate that way. If something is really important, do your homework. Get it right. If it's not important, leave it out altogether. Rather don't go there than go there in a way that is inaccurate and not precise. If something is important to you, if you're going to quote something, make sure you quote it precisely. If you want to quote a Chazal, you want to quote a Rishon or an Achron, and you saw it quoted somewhere on the internet, look it up and just check up that it's quoted correctly and that you're quoting it correctly, and check up the context in which it was said so that you're understanding it, that you're not taking it out of context, as often happens on the internet. Something's taken out of context and then you use it and somebody else quotes you and somebody else quotes somebody else who quotes you, and the item is completely distorted by the end of it. If it's important, get the details right. If it's not important, leave it out. Don't even go there. And that way we'll be able to make sure that, particularly when it comes to matters of the mouth, the things we say are said with thought, they're said accurately, and the cosmic impact they have is an impact that is positive and that is constructive in everything that we do.